Good evening. Today is August 24th. This is the Hyde Park's Central School District's Board of Education meeting. At this time, may I have a motion to enter executive session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Thank you. We're now in executive session. So, may I have a motion to return to open session?
So
please?
moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Thank you. We're now in open session. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There are no agenda modifications. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on there? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us Pride. We have my buddy Guy Villieu, who had a hole-in-one, and now he owes the district a beverage of their choice, I think. Isn't that the way it works? We'll have to ask him. Any other?
Yeah, just two things. We have concluded all of our summer programs. So here we are, August 24th, and we have this small window where there aren't any children. It seems awfully quiet. Our summer schools were very successful. Aviva will be giving a report in October, but we appreciated having probably close to 500 plus kids here during the summer. As many of you know, we have, with our Smart Schools Bond Act, we had a tremendously large shipment come in of our Chromebooks and our monitors, and we needed volunteers. So I'd like to recognize one volunteer tonight, Roger, who is here. And Roger not only volunteers in our tech department, but he's great with the teenagers who come in too. So of the many volunteers, it included the girls' varsity and JV soccer teams, the girls' swim team, numerous teachers, and dozens of other students who came and helped, and they called it an unboxing party. And so it was a great showing of staff and students coming out and helping to move this project along. So we would like to thank everybody who came and helped out with that.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
I have just something quick to say. I think it just bodes well for our music department that this summer some of our students in our music department, some that were graduating and some that are still in our music department, put together a jazz band, and they've been volunteering, and they performed in a couple of places this summer, and they're hoping to continue that in their free time in next summer and stuff. So I think it was just kind of cool that
Excellent.
that they did that.
Do they have a name and a contact?
Well, that's a little liquid.
Okay.
The name tends to change a little bit, but I think the last one was the Blue Shell Jazz Band or something like that.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Cool. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to the superintendent's report. You got anything else?
Well, for the superintendent's report, we do have one item. Linda wanted to we want to give an update on the bond refunding. So, Linda?
Sure, thank you. So in July, we talked about the bond refunding, and after that meeting, we moved forward with it. At the time, we were assuming a savings of between $108,000 and $190,000. That was based on conservative estimates that BPD had written up for us. But we have the final numbers now, and we'll actually be saving $303,000.
Yeah,
so
the rate came down.
Yeah, the rate came down to
yeah.
1.69%, and the closing will be on September 7th. But Doug has already signed all of the paperwork.
Right.
Many pages.
Great news. Yeah. Well, I'm say the 70 through 78 signatures weren't quite really good, but I was getting tired at that point. So that's great. Thank you. That's the only thing you have, or?
Yes.
Okay. That brings us to the capital project update.
Yes, so there have been many meetings and visits taking place. CS Arch has been visiting along with Brian Manning, along with Kevin, and I can't remember Kevin's last name, the other architect on the team. They have been, they've looked at all of our buildings, all of our HVAC. They're working steadily. We are now having project team meetings weekly. That's Linda, Elliot, myself, and the architects. Pretty soon at the next meeting, we'll be calling in the construction management firm. Part of what we're working on is they received building maps with teachers, their content assigned to each room, so they're going through and looking at the room utilization charts and, you know, trying to navigate our science lab needs. Brian and Kevin came to our administrative meeting earlier this week, and we had a brainstorming session and an information session update. Actually, we missed our meeting this week, the project team meeting, because of an unfortunate death in the architect's family. Actually, he received that news when he was driving down to our administrative meeting. Stayed for the meeting, told me afterwards he wouldn't be back in 2 days. So the next one is scheduled for September 1st. Kim and Rick and Eric and Mike Ruella are planning for the meetings that are going to take place with the science teachers and the architects. Those will be happening September, I think as early as September 7th, or they're setting up those meetings. We'll plan to have the architects come in and give us an update in September at a board meeting. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. Just a lot of great dialogue and all the meetings and them gathering all the information. So we'll pull them in to one of our meetings, probably the second meeting in September, to give you an update on their progress.
Okay, great.
Perry, it looks like he has a question.
Yeah, I'm concerned that of what information we're pulling together and the schedule that we're working with. At this point, do we know how many science rooms we need?
That's a very good question. That was exactly what we've been talking about in the last two meetings. And there's the question of how many science labs do you need and how many do you want? When we had well over 4,000 students, not everybody gets their own classroom. Mm-hmm. As we shrink in enrollment, people get used to having their own classrooms. And, but that's not by design, that's by default. So the architects are working very closely with Kim and the building principals to, and that's one of the things that they actually do. How many science courses do you offer? Of them, how many have to be attached to a lab? So chemistry has to be in a certain type of lab. So they are doing, the architects will do their piece based on what they know. There'll be an opportunity for teacher and administrative input, but I've been clear that, you know, the luxury of having your own room, while we don't want science teachers lugging their chemicals around, we're not going to design for every teacher to have their own classroom. The middle school said that they are looking for the same amount of science labs that they have right now. They felt comfortable saying that the 7th graders are going into the 6th grade wing to have science labs, which is really kind of interesting since those labs don't function. So they're looking at pulling, one of the concepts they're exploring right now is setting up new science labs in that B-wing corridor where it's classroom space. And then in the 8th grade wing, refurbishing the science labs. At the high school, it's a little bit more complicated. The architects were talking about the need to, we have the needs of the pods and the needs of drainage, and making sure that the science labs are on the second floor, because any time where you may need to go in and access any type of drainage, you don't want to go under the building, you want to go up through the second floor. So that room utilization is what they're working on right now. We supplied them with all both the building maps, the number of courses, the number of teachers, and the types of sciences we're offering. So astronomy is very different from
Right.
from chemistry or forensics.
The different disciplines and identify what spaces, yeah.
We had a lengthy conversation of STEM and STEAM and what direction we're going in with Project Lead the Way. Is the next step is biomedical. So a lot, those conversations are happening right now.
Yeah. I guess my point is, I see those conversations are at administrator, architect level, and not that I want to exclude the teachers, but I think it's just a basic count. We have to decide on how many spaces. If you ask a teacher how much space and what kind of spaces they need, you're going to get a very different answer than what you might get from an administrator who knows space, room utilization. And since I know we're on a tight crunch, I'm hoping that a lot of that is being done so that now they can sit down with teachers and talk about, okay, this is how many spaces we're going to go. And it's not that won't change, but at least it gives them a framework to start working with and a reality, set of reality.
You're absolutely 100% correct. So right now, it's at the administrative level.
Okay.
It will be determined. We also had that conversation that we want science teachers to have input, but not input at, they're...
Not customizing
Not
classrooms,
customizing. We know that within one given content area, if you have 3 chemistry teachers, they may not all agree. So not everybody's going to get if they offer their input, it's not going to match necessarily. And it's not a decision-making body. The decision-making body happens with the administrators and the architect to come to the board and give a recommendation. So the teachers will,
Okay, I
Yeah.
mean, that's good.
Yeah.
Just no more than that.
Okay.
yeah.
Would just like to add, though, that even though we're in a downward trend of students, we're likely building these units to last 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And so I wouldn't skimp on the space in case we do get that next wave that
Can
we
always
get
build more labs.
Not in the pods. It'd be pretty tough.
If the space is there, you may be able to. My point is, I'm confident that we can't afford to do everything we want to do. So I think we've got to do what we have to do at this point.
Okay, well, we'll see what
That's-
happens.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think we have enough information yet.
No.
Yeah, okay.
But that's probably something we should consider, what we need, but is there anything we can do along the way at a minimal cost, anticipating a potential for growth? Making the drain pipes a little bigger so they can handle an extra lab tapping in from the area, things like that. It might be beneficial in the future if we have to go, if we do hopefully
Good point.
expand.
Good point.
Okay. Now we have the thing everybody's been waiting for out there.
Speak for
Linda?
yourself, young man.
The tax levy calculations, and while Linda's going up there, I hope that Supervisor Rohr is watching this, and she will understand why that the district really wants to see the town have a reevaluation because of what happened this year and last year, as when the equalization rates change, it makes it, for us, unable to provide the tax information or to keep the levy what we said it was going to be, because things change, so.
Okay, thank
Linda.
you. So, good evening. Today's always the day that my mind switches to the new school year, the day that we set the tax levy. Before I talk about the calculations, I just want to talk about the factors that affect the tax rates. There are three main factors. There's only one that the school district controls, and that's the tax levy. So that's what's adopted in the budget by the board in April and approved by the voters in May. The other information doesn't come to the school district until August. So that's the assessed values. We get that from the county, but it's based on each town's assessed value. And the equalization rates come to us from New York State. Those are the rates that New York State applies a rate to if they believe, they apply a rate other than 100% if they believe that a town's assessment isn't at fair market value. So each year we have to subtract out the omitted taxes from the levy. So in the budget, our tax levy was $58,678,000. We're also going to receive $27,698 from the county for taxes that were omitted in prior years. So we're required to take that off the levy because otherwise we'd basically be double dipping. So the levy that we're actually setting tonight is the $58,651,000. Okay, so this spreadsheet here shows the actual calculation. So like I said, the main factors are the tax levy, the $58,651,000. The assessed values are listed in the second column. That's the information that we receive from the county for each town. And in the middle, it's the fifth column, is the equalization rates. So as you can see, each town except for Hyde Park is 100% equalization rate. So for those towns, the state agrees with the town assessments. For Hyde Park, the state is saying that the assessments as a whole for Hyde Park are only 59% of the fair value. So that's why we have a difference in the tax rates. This actually changed from last year's equalization rate too. I have a slide later on where I'm going to explain that a little bit more. But here we apply the equalization rate to the assessed values to determine each town's share of the tax levy. That's in the second to last column. And that information is used to calculate the actual tax rates, which are in the last column. And as you can see, every town except for Hyde Park has the same tax rate, it's the 23.401, and Hyde Park's tax rate is at 39.6. So does anybody have questions about this slide before we go on? Okay. So I have quite a few slides in the presentation that are comparison to the prior year. I actually have this information here because I've had taxpayers before ask for this information, and we put this presentation on the website, so I like to leave it here. But as you can notice, the taxable assessed values in total for this school district have increased by 8.4 million, or 0.45% from last year. That actually helps the tax rates in that there's a larger tax base, so there's more to spread the levy across. So if the equalization rates had stayed the same for all of the towns, we would actually have a tax levy increase or a tax rate increase for all the towns at less than what the levy increase is. But like I said, I'm going to get into more of that a little later. So this slide shows the tax levy for each town. You can see the increase is the 1.22%. When we did the budget, our levy to levy increase was 1.26%. The difference here is because we took out the omitted taxes. Okay, so this is my favorite slide. I think it's actually the most important one in the presentation. This one shows the tax rates for 17-18 compared to 16-17, as well as the equalization rates. So you can see in the last column, it's showing how much the tax rates will increase for each town. For every town except for Hyde Park, it's 1.9%, but for Hyde Park itself, it's 0.18%. So the reason that there's a difference is that the equalization rate in the town of Hyde Park increased by 1%. So in 2016, New York State said that the town of Hyde Park was assessed at 58% of its total value. In 2017, the state is saying it's 59% of the total value. So in essence, Hyde Park, the town of Hyde Park isn't paying as much of the tax levy as the other towns because of that. If the if the equalization rate had stayed the same at 58%, every town would have a tax rate increase of only 0.82%. And I don't know if you remember last year, but last year the tax rate, or the equalization rate in Hyde Park fell from 62% to 58%, and that actually had the opposite effect. So because the equalization rate fell, last year the town of Hyde Park had an increase that was almost 3%, whereas the other towns had a decrease in their tax rates. So really the equalization rates make the calculation of the tax rates pretty volatile, and we can't predict this when we do the budget. Okay.
Concisely stated, thank you.
Sure. Would anybody like to ask any questions about this or have any discussion? And the fact that the assessed values increased actually helped us, because if the assessed values had stayed the same, the tax rates in all of the other 4 towns would have been higher than the 1.9%. Okay, so we're good to move on?
So again, the school district would like to see a full valuation for the
Yeah.
town of Hyde Park.
Right. And when the state applies the equalization rate, they apply it to the town as a whole. So they're not looking at individual properties. So like my property, my home might be 50% of the actual value, but somebody else's home is assessed maybe at 70%. So then there's inequalities within the town itself. So until there's a townwide valuation, that'll always be the case. So this slide here shows the maximum star savings. This is determined by New York State. This information also appears on the tax bills. And we get questions about this quite often, so I like to have it in the presentation.
Can you explain why it's different for Hyde Park?
It's affected by the equalization rates. I don't know how they actually calculate the maximum star savings, but the equalization rates are a factor. Okay. So I believe this is our 4th year that we're collecting payments online. Taxpayers can get to that through our website. We also have links to the town of Hyde Park and the town of Poughkeepsie. The town of Poughkeepsie also collects taxes online. I believe the town of Hyde Park was looking into it, but I'm not sure if they made a decision on that. But we do have a link to their website from through our website too. And we don't accept credit cards because the charges are too high for both the taxpayer and the district. So you can pay online with your banking information. And the tax collection dates will be September 11th through October 10th. That's the penalty-free period. The 2% penalty starts on October 11th through November 1st. That's all the information I have for this. So, yep, if anybody has any questions or would like to discuss anything, I'd be happy to go over it. How's that? Okay.
Any questions? No? Thank you, Linda.
Sure, thank you.
No, I do have a question, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
And I don't know if you're the right person. I mean, we keep saying we want Hyde Park to do the reassessment or the reval and everything, but they really don't have any inducement to do so, do they? I mean, they don't have any pressure other than us to actually do a reval, do they?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I do know it doesn't only affect the other towns. It could be affecting people within the town of Hyde Park, because we don't know what their actual assessment would be after evaluation.
Well, it would certainly make the assessments throughout the town at least that one point in time equal and fair, supposedly. Right now, you have properties that might be taxed at a great discount. I mean, a house that was bought 40 years ago where the evaluation hasn't changed since '92, 92 was the last,
I just mean that the
So-
cost to the town to do the reval is quite high, and I don't, and the benefit to them versus the cost to do the reval, I'm not sure that they've got a big inducement to spend that money and to tax the
well,
taxpayers to do that.
it might in fact increase the value of the town and therefore increase the
So
taxes
that
that are,
would be an
that would
inducement.
be,
Yeah, I would share, I bought my house quite a while ago, but it was again in a period of time in which reassessments hadn't occurred in an extended period of time. I moved into a cluster of 5 houses on one block. And at the time I got my first tax bill, I had the smallest property and smallest house in the cluster. And I was paying about 12% higher taxes than anybody else in the cluster. Where I think they may have an effect in the future that might start bringing pressure on the town is as they get assessed a new business moving in. We built this, I didn't coin the phrase the walkway to nowhere, but, and they're talking about putting in the septic system to attract businesses into the core of the town. I would assume at that time, as these properties are built up and properties are sold, they're going to be assessed based on the true value of what they sold for. And what's going to happen is they're going to effectively be handling a higher percentage of the tax levy than their actual properties represent in true value.
Okay, I was just wondering if we had an
Yeah.
ally in this at all. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's, it's pretty unknown because we don't know what the actual value of individual properties are.
Right.
We only know what the state says the value is as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
okay. Any other comments, questions? At this time, I have a motion to enter public participation, please.
So moved? Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Thank you. If Roger would like to address the board, because or Steve, you want to? Okay, can I have a motion to exit public participation, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion there? All in favor? Thank you. Let me just move down here. Are there any subcommittee reports? I don't, the ones I'm on haven't met, so I don't know. So, okay, cool. We have in here setting board goals, initial discussion. I don't want to take a lot of time on this today because I think we need to think about it a lot more. I wouldn't be opposed to just going through what the process, I don't know. Let me just look at this again. We did have a retreat on setting board goals, and
Doug, if I could suggest maybe that we just, the fact that it's on the agenda it certainly made me think about them a little bit.
right.
And maybe that's enough at this point to
Because I don't
say,
think
okay,
we're
it's,
fully ready. It's the
Yeah.
summertime, we're all getting
yeah.
together. It's there as a wake-up. I look
Yeah.
at it as kind of a
Yeah.
wake-up
Yep.
thing, all right? So, I don't think we really need to go this, but probably not the next one, but the meeting afterwards, we probably have, so if you could really look these over for the next, month. All right. That brings us to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Second?
Any discussion on that? We have a lot of hiring and personnel moves, but I don't think there's anything that we need to figure out. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us down. Hold on. I have a motion for the special education placements, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
I've reviewed and recommend their adoption as presented.
Thank you, Dan. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 10.2 joint municipal cooperative bidding program. That's the one with the Eastern BOCES for bulk thing.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
I just have a little question. And I realize that BOCES is a different animal, and that being able to work with them, you always have to pay something. But in general, piggybacking from another municipality, there's no cost associated with, I mean, I piggyback from the city of Poughkeepsie, contracts the city of Poughkeepsie has. The point is that they have to have the language built into their specs when they bid it, and any other municipality can jump on. But here, the fact it's BOCES,
The BOCES, there's another BOCES, I think it's a Nassau County
Yeah.
BOCES that we have piggybacking agreements with, and they both charge an administrative fee.
okay. But do you agree that other municipalities that we piggyback from, again, it points out that BOCES is a unique animal in the fact that we pay to piggyback where we don't have to pay to piggyback on other municipalities. Just a point.
Yeah, BOCES does all of the work. Some of the other municipalities that we bid with, it's a collaboration where we do some of the work and they might do some of the legwork too. So that may be why.
Do we get enough benefit to offset the cost?
Yes, I talked to the clerk in the special ed department, and even some of the, there was a teacher at Netherwood that really wanted this particular vendor, and just from one order, we would save more than what the cost was. It's a vendor that used to be on state contract, so we could order from them, and they're not on state contract anymore, so Pete found a way that we could continue to order through them.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us to the other joint purchasing agreement, BOCES, the Nassau BOCES.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion there?
Ditto.
All right, all in favor? Thank you. May I have a motion for 10.4 agreement for special education services?
So
This is
moved.
the Charlton School.
Second.
Any discussion there? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. A motion for the 10.5 agreement for special education with Abilities First.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one?
I would just comment, it's nice to see that someone has taken the time to calculate what the
Yes.
Cost
Thing, yes. Well, that's
is-
because you ask all the time.
It's,
That, there you go.
we should know
Right.
the upper limit of these.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. 10.7, agreement for special education services, WMNC Health. Or did I skip one? I skipped one, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
10.6,
Carafin.
sorry. Agreement for special education, the Carafin School.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Now we'll do the agreement for special education, WMC Health.
So moved.
Second.
That would be the Westchester Medical Center, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. I have a motion for 10.8, agreement for interpreter services.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That is a good one. I have a motion for 10.9, authorization to close completed capital projects.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one?
Not much left in it.
All in favor?
But it's under budget.
Yep.
Opposed? Thank you. You have a motion for 10.10, separation agreement with employee number 3018.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? We can't really discuss this, so all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And can I have a motion for 1011 stipulation of settlement with the same employee.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion there? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, this is a biggie. Have a motion for 10.12, the confirmation of the tax roll and authorizing of tax levy as was presented to us.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion on that one? No, I think we got that. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Brings us to 1013. May I have a motion for lead value recertification, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion there? All right. So this is for,
APPRs.
yeah, PPPS, right. All in favor? Sorry. Just making sure. Nobody's opposed. I have a motion for 1014, an MOA with the HPUE.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion there? You'll know it's for the UPK monitor. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Motion for 1015, agreement for HR consultant MAG, Management Advisory Group.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 1016, agreement for special education services with J&D Ultra Care.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion for 1017, the appointment of C.S. Arch as our architects, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Just, I mean, so this has no dollar amount listed on it.
Right.
The idea is that at some point there will be a fee established based on scope of work that's
Right.
identified.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure
Yeah.
everybody's aware that that's.
Good point.
you
Good
know,
point.
it's-
Thank you.
And
Sorry.
we did have discussions with the group before we selected them, and they did provide boundaries
Yeah.
or of what their fees would, based on the nature of the work, but since the full nature of the job hasn't been established yet, they couldn't put a real, an exact
Okay.
dollar figure on it.
It's typical to have a matrix formula of
Mhm.
what fees are based on dollar values and types of scope of work, so.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Well, that brings us back to second public, may I have a motion for public participation?
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody have any thoughts? Aha! Mr. Hughes?
We must have done something.
Did we ring this bell?
Oh, man.
Yes, I did.
You unleashed the tiger.
Steve Hughes, District President. I just wanted, with respect to agenda items 10, 10, and 10 and 11, I believe I heard Mr. Heater say they referred to the same employee, but two different employee numbers are given in the public minutes.
Yeah, they're two
It is
different
two
employees.
different
Hmm?
employees. It is two different employees.
Oh, did I, the wrong one? I'm sorry.
Oh, they are two different?
My
Okay.
mistake.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Whew, man, he's watching you.
When I looked at it, I was sure it was the same number.
It's very similar.
Three
Oh, was
numbers,
it close?
same
All
ones.
right. All right.
I
My bad. My bad. Thank you, Steve. You know,
It just emphasized the fact we
I'd
never
be
truly
willing to
replaced
switch.
Steve since he left.
we can switch, you can take over here and I can do the, no? Oh, okay. All right, well,
And we haven't been able to replace you.
okay.
Motion to close for public.
Yeah, may I have a motion to close public participation? Thank you.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Okay. That brings us to, I don't believe there's any other matters deemed necessary by the board.
I have a question, though.
Okay, go ahead.
The Poughkeepsie Journal carried some preliminary numbers released on the testing that occurred.
Right.
I noted that going through it, they did not have figures for all of the districts, and one of the districts they did not include was Hyde Park. And as of yet, I haven't seen a memo or a release from State Ed giving the figures that would include the Hyde Park numbers. I'm just wondering when they might be available.
We've received preliminary, but the last that I heard, they were still embargoed, and we haven't received a call yet,
Embargoed?
meaning we're allowed to look at them but not share them yet.
And
That's what
why
they
is
call
that?
it. I guess they want us to look at them first. I mean, we've shared them with the principals.
We're getting better treatment than the other schools?
I don't know. I didn't receive a call. I don't know if you did.
Yeah,
Why-
I think what happens is they just do this vague thing, they're embargoed until August 22nd. They're supposed to give us a time, or whatever date they said. So I'm pretty sure they're not embargoed now, but they don't specifically say, they don't call you back to say when. They say they'll be embargoed until. So, but I'm surprised they printed some results without the others.
That's what that was-
Once they're not
that's what-
embargoed, the minute that embargo lifts, the Poughkeepsie Journal has information to the same thing anybody else would. So why they would only publish partial information either means some districts jumped the gun or they didn't.
No idea. That's
Because
what
once
my
it's public,
question.
everything is public.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says the public release was scheduled for this Tuesday, the 22nd.
Which is when the Poughkeepsie Journal published their,
So they could have had access to ours. They just
Right.
didn't.
Yeah. That's
I don't
not a
know why.
secret.
Right.
which means we had access to ours and could have shared it.
Yeah, they didn't even call. They
And we-
don't
Right.
call
We
because
generally
they
don't
lift
just
it.
throw out our raw data. We wait until we
Yeah.
do the assessment report a little later on.
All right.
And we let parents know as soon as we have the individual reports, those go home.
Yeah, the Poughkeepsie Journal generally doesn't call us for that,
Mhm.
and
They
they
just
didn't
do it.
call us, they just do it.
And they-
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And we have it, we just shared all of the building scores with the building principals, and we'll be providing the board with an assessment
Our
report.
regular annual.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Upcoming events,
Opening a school.
well, yeah, there, at this time, looks like there is no need for a board meeting on the 31st. So we can take that one off. Wednesday, September 6th is the opening day of the school. The various schools, the starting times are different. And on Thursday, September 14th, 7 o'clock, is our next regular Board of Education meeting. I don't believe we have any need for a executive session. No? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? All right, Steve.